Hey everybody, this is Joe from Greenlight Sound and greenlightsound.com, and today's video is part 2 of a series I'm doing on mix prep, how to organize your tracks before you start processing and actually mixing all of the tracks. So in part 1 of the video, if you want to check that one out, I imported all the tracks in, I dealt with how to deal with multiple mono files and convert them to stereo files in Studio One, I colorized the tracks, labeled a few differently so I know exactly what was going on, and set up some buses here. So just to review the bus setup, I have all my kick tracks, my natural kick and my samples going to a kick master, my natural snare and my snare samples going to snare master, and those two tracks plus all my other drum tracks going to the all drums. Bass I didn't deal with just yet. In blue here, all my guitar tracks are headed to my all guitars bus. My two synth tracks are headed to my all synths. My lead vocal and background vocals go to my all vocals. All of those buses plus that bass track are then sent to the red submix track right over here, which you could call mix bus, two bus, stereo bus, whatever you want. I call it submix, and that's fed to the main output. Over here is a reference track separate. So what I'd like to do now is do a little bit more work with busing here. In the first video, I did some basic busing, but there are some other things I would do before I start to process tracks. One of them has to do with auto align and aligning for time and phase any tracks that are multi-mic tracks. And the basic process for doing that is to get all your close mics routed to the same bus. So I choose my kick master, I choose my snare master, my hi-hat, and I set up a new bus for that, which I call close mics. And that's still all routed to the all drums bus. But that will enable me to time align my close mics with my overheads. If you want to see how that is done, I encourage you to check out my auto align on drums video. That'll help you get a sense of in detail how I do this. Basically, what I'm going to do first is make sure my natural snare and my natural kicks line up with my sampled snare and kicks. So what I do to do that is highlight all of these kick tracks here. I could have shift-clicked that. That would be easier. I take Melda Productions Auto Align. You could use Sound Radix Auto Align or a number of different plugins that will do the same job, and drag it on here. Now, rather than go through all of these and do all the alignment work for you, I encourage you again to check out the other video on where I go through this process. For now, what I'm going to do is pause the video and get back to it once I'm done aligning. Okay, back on. Now I've aligned the tracks that needed it. Not all of them needed to be aligned. I didn't have to do it for all the kick tracks, but I had to align my snare top and bottom track, and then my hi-hat, snare, and kicks all together, so I have a nice punchy sound and I get that low-end information back that can be lost when you have phase cancellation. But now that that's done, I want to do a little bit more busing here. What I'd like to do for my bass here is set up what I call an all-music bus. So I'm going to highlight the bass, select that track, then get my all guitars bus, all synth bus, and add bus channel here, which I could also use my shortcut for. Actually, I'll do that. I'll use my shortcut, Option B. And I'm going to call this all music. I'm going to highlight this one a different color. I'm going to make that one green. And that is a bus that processes everything but my vocal track. And the nice thing about that is if I need to bounce any mixes without any vocals later on, I have that option of just soloing up this bus, leaving all the vocals out, and I can easily just get to all my music tracks in the same place there. Now with all these buses, with all guitars, all synths, all music, some mixers like to keep them all on one side, all together, like right before the mix bus. That works for me sometimes. I often keep like the all music bus over there next to the all vocals and submix. But whatever way your workflow works is what works for you. So I'm going to keep these all guitars next to the guitars, all synths next to the synths, and so on, and then all music over here. Now, I also want to have my lead vocal track with its own separate bus. I'm going to call this bus leads. And right now, the only thing fed to it is my lead vocal track, and then that just goes to all vocals. That'll make more sense later on when I get some processing done on the lead vocal. If I have a reverb, a delay, some parallel saturation on the lead vocal, then that will all be sent to the leads bus, and I can process that separately from all my background vocals. which tend to be not as heavy-handed with processing as the lead vocal will be. So that sets up all the processing and busing I need of these tracks to get them situated the right way and sent to the right places. The next thing I want to do has to do with gain staging. And sort of like the auto align, I have a separate video on that. It's called Gain Staging with a VU Meter. I encourage you to check that one out, where I go through step by step on how to get your tracks into the sweet spot in the digital realm, which is basically around -18 dBFS. The first thing you'll notice right off the bat, if I solo my all drums bus here, just the drums, nothing else. I don't have my bass in, no guitars, no vocals yet. Listen to this. Watch out, it's loud. Okay, it's already overloading my buses. It's clipping my main outputs. It's hitting red everywhere. The tracks were recorded very hot. If I tried to mix them like this, I'd be bringing my faders down so low, it would be very difficult to apply automation later, difficult to mix in general. So what I do instead is go through each track and add a VU meter to help me process them. PreSonus, if you're in Studio One, makes a free VU meter plugin. Waves gave away a free VU meter a little while ago. I think they charge $39 for it now. Klanghelm makes VUMT. So it's a nice way to get an average level and to measure for average level and to get to the -18 spot. So I'm just going to use one track as an example now. For my program kick here, AD program, it's from Addictive Drums. I drag my VU meter over. I would do this for all the tracks. I have mine calibrated to -18. I play the track. Ah, not just a kick track there. That's an actual loop. And then I drag down the clip gain until I hit the VU meters needle around 0, which will be -18 in my peak meters down here. A little overshoot's okay because this is pretty transient heavy, so it's jumping around quite a lot. And I go through that same exact process with this VU meter for all the tracks in the mix. So I'm going to pause it here, get all that done, go through all the VU meter work, and then get back to mix prep. Okay, so the first thing you're going to notice now that I'm back is that I have VU meter selected, or inserted rather, on a bunch of these tracks, all of them in fact. And I've gone through the process of bringing the clip level down so that I don't become totally overwhelmed by hot recording so that I can't mix effectively. If you listen to the all drums bus now, still hot. And I will, when I balance it out, not have all the tracks full unity gain, but much more manageable and not completely overwhelming the main outputs. So the next step would be just to get rid of all these VU meters. I'll do it here just to show you how. There you go. Select those, remove VU meter, and I'll go do that later for the rest of the tracks. And the final step I want to go over today is to strip silence. Now, Studio One and most DAWs have an automatic strip silence feature up here, but I like to do it manually just to be 100% sure that I'm not cutting anything out that I want to be there. One of the first things I want to do is increase the size of the wave views, the waveform views in here. When I brought the clip gain down, that brought the size of the waveforms down as I changed the volume. Over here in this corner of Studio One, I can just bring all the way up the size of those waveforms. That's not actually increasing their volume. It's just making them look larger, appear larger. So what I can do to strip the silence manually is highlight the area I want to cut out here. And I have my multi-tool enabled that allows me to do that. I just hit delete and there it goes. Do the same process right in here in between for these 4 kick tracks. Over here. There we go. And I'll do the same thing for my loop up top. In between the loop areas, cut out. Cut out. Now, for some programs in the past, they would say that this would increase the efficiency of the software and there'd be like less disk search time looking for the tracks. I don't think it works that way in Studio One. This is purely for aesthetics and for navigation's sake. Whoa, I don't want to cut them all out. So that I can see exactly what track is playing when and not be distracted by the big blocks of color in between. So I just go through this process for all of my tracks. Cut it all out. So I'm going to go through the rest of this, pause it here, you get the idea, and come back in when I finish stripping all the silence. Okay, so all that silence has been stripped out, and you can see it's a much more clean view. You can see where every part comes in. You can see the groupings of the background vocals here, where the lead and the doubled part come in together here, where all the synths are, all the guitar parts coming in together, all the drums and so on. And even these transition points here from the percussion, you can see other small parts just coming in here. One of the things that you can also do if you're worried or nervous that you've stripped something out that you want to hear back again, you could always find the end of one of these waveforms and simply drag it once you select it. Drag it back out again and see if you actually accidentally cut anything out that you meant to have there. It's easy to get back. This is non-destructive editing, so we're not actually deleting them from your hard drive. We're just removing them from this view here. So there we go. That's all I wanted to cover in this one. So we went through, we did a little bit extra routing. We auto-aligned the tracks. We brought them down with the VU meter and gain stage properly, and then stripped the silence out. In the next video, we'll cover a few more topics before we start actual mixing. If you have any questions or comments, let me know in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching.